In today's video, we're gonna explore some of the things that I've been testing out on Firebase and Nuxt, and we're gonna look at how to authenticate and I guess authorize some of our users into the application. The application that we'll be doing this with is a server-side rendered application, and with this setup, there are a few things to think about. Mainly the fact that we have two environments that we're working with in one application. In one instance, we're actually on the server, and in another instance, we're on the client. So some of the main things that we need to worry about is one, we need to have a way to send some data from the client with each request. And the thing that's perfect for this is cookies. So we'll be using some cookies to send some data that we'll retrieve from Firebase authentication on the client side, and we'll initiate this or store this in the Nuxt store. By checking the store value every time, we can block users from visiting a route on the server side and keep them from seeing content that they shouldn't, or maybe just role-based access controlling some systems. But enough talk, and let's go look at what we are going to do. So I'm on my desktop here, and I have a command line terminal command prompt open on Windows, and there's a few things that we do need for this. We need Node.js installed, and preferably I would say a version 10 upwards. I think the latest, not the latest, but the long-term support version is 10.15.3. So I would suggest you guys go install that. And if my voice sounds a little bit weird today, it's because I have a little bit of a cold, but I still felt like making this video, so just excuse that. But to get started, we have Node.js, and you can test that by saying node-v on your command line. And I have 10.15.1, so I could actually upgrade that, but I won't for now. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say npx and then create -nuxt -app. What npx is going to do, it's just going to download the necessary tool to install the Nuxt app, so that we don't have to install it globally or anything. It's just a once-off use. So what I want to call this is a Nuxt Fire Auth application, and press enter. The CLI tool will ask us for a few things like the project name and the description. I'll just leave it as is. I don't want to select the server framework, but if you want to, you could select like Express or whatever, and then you can configure your server yourself. But out of the box, Nuxt server is pretty good, so I'm just going to say none. We don't want to make any requests. I have a linter, prettier built into my VS Code, so I'm not going to select any of that. And I don't want a framework because I'm going to use a CSS link from the internet just for some basic styling. And then no testing and universal, and I'll just change my name here to that, and I'm going to use npm to install dependencies. After the dependencies have installed, I'm going to add a few of my own dependencies that we'll be using in this video, and I'll add that through npm install. The first one is cookie parser, or let's start with Firebase, and then cookie parser. And we want JS cookie, and we also want JWT decode. These are the dependencies we'll use. Firebase is for the authentication online. Cookie parser is to, as you can tell, parse a cookie from the request. JS cookie is to save or remove cookies from our browser, and JWT decode is what we're going to use to decode the JSON web token that Google provides to us through a certain method that we'll use. While that installs, you guys would want to go to the console.firebase.google.com website so that you can log into your console and create an app. Your homepage will have a few options here. Just click on web and then give it the name you want. And then the important step is to go to authentication and then sign in method, and then enable this email password method, because this is what we'll be using for our application. And while you're at it, we won't be doing sign up because it's a little bit redundant. You can think about sign up by yourself. I think the thing that we want to do is just create a test account here so that we don't need to sign up before using this. And I'm just going to make my password something simple like password 123, and then add that user to the Firebase authentication module. This way we don't have to create the users. Our current application has a file structure laid out for us. It has an index page, it has a layout, a default layout, and it has some components. What I'm going to do actually is just delete this the logo component completely out of the project. I'm going to go to index, select everything, and do template, and then just an H1 for now. Hello. And then on the layouts, I'm going to go to default, select everything again, and I'm going to scaffold this one out with the view syntax. And by the way, I'm using VS Code. Let me zoom in so you guys can see what's going on here. And then in the default layout, what we need is a first, actually what I want to do is I want to import some CSS, just some remote CSS. I'm going to get it from this website here. It's from Bootswatch. They have CSS themes based on Bootstrap. I'm only going to import the CSS, no JavaScript or anything like that, and then save that. And before continuing, I'm going to create a section here, and I'm going to give the section a class of container, and then inside this section I'm going to do the Nuxt tag. And what this Nuxt tag basically does is it just renders whichever route you visit into this container. So Nuxt works with a file-based router, so you can either create a new page by name like about.view, and then if you go to /about in your browser, it will open up this page as an HTML page. But you can also, and the way I like to do it is you can create a folder with the name that you want, and then in that you can do a new file, index.view, and this will be on the /about route as well. But what this allows you to do is you can create like slug routes for, say, a dynamic ID or something like that you want to render. But I'm just going to delete that for now, and then let's just see what this looks like. To run it, I'm going to do control tilde and do npm run dev, not dev c, just normal dev, and open this in the browser. While this loads, it shows you a nice little update of what's going on, and then you can see this is our home page. So just quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a div with a call large 6, which means it's half of the container, and just do mx auto, and then in here create a bootstrap form just for us to be able to send off our login details. So with the form, I'm going to add an add submit.prevent attribute, because what that does is whenever we click submit, then the form doesn't try to post it to some server, because we're going to handle it with JavaScript. So we only need 2 fields. I'm going to create a .form group, and in this form group we'll have an input with the class of form control, and this is just basic Bootstrap classes, and we want the type to be email, and I'm going to set an ID of Nuxt Fire email, and then just copy this to create a new one, and this one will be a type of password, and we'll make one more, and we'll do a type submit here. So type submit just means basically it's a button, and then we can give it a class of btn and btn primary. So I'm going to close this down because it's a little bit distracting. Now that we have those classes, we should see a button on the page. Let's save that and open. Let's actually split the screen so we can see both on the video. So okay, I think I'm going to do it this way around. What's going on? Let's do this and this. So okay, so now we have that. So we need to add something that just says log in to your account, and this is on the home page. Typically you might want to have it on some sort of some sort of route like login or something like that, but just because this is so simple, I'll just keep it on the home page. And then we need a placeholder for this input. I'm just going to add it here. Placeholder equals email address, and on the password we'll do a placeholder of password. And so that makes it a little bit more clear what's going on. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a script tag to handle our data modeling. So we're going to add a data attribute, and we're going to say in the data attribute we're going to have an account field, and the account field will have an email which will be empty and a password which will also be empty for now. And we can we can model this by doing a v model on the input and say account.email for email, and on the password we'll v model a account.password. So all this is basically doing is it's just creating a bindable data attribute which is being modeled by these inputs. So whenever this input changes, it immediately sets this property on data. So let's create a fake login. At click. What is it? At click. Yeah, at click. What we want to do is log in. So under data, we want to go to methods, and we need to create that login method, and we can do it like this. So in our methods, what we want to do with login for now is just we want to say console.log logging in, and then do a account.email and a account.password. So if we inspect this page now, let me put this at the bottom. So if we inspect this page with the console, we can do, let's just clear this out. We can do email test@test.com, and we can do a password 123 here, submit. And it says account, because whenever you use your data attributes, you need to bind it with this, because this is the global view object, and this .data, this .account would be on that object. So let's do this and then rebuild. So now we can do, we have to also set these IDs to unique, because both of them are email right now. So let's clear this out, and then we can try that again. We can do this, password 123, and submit. So we're logging in with test@test.com and password 123. So we know that the modeling is working. And it's probably at this point where you would want to add some checks. So before login, you might want to create some to do add, what do you call it? Like you sanitize your data, or make sure it looks like you want it, the shape and the type and the length and everything. There's a word for that, but I can't remember. Let's just say passing of data. It's like validation or something. Yeah, I think it's validation. So you could add that if you want. But now we have a basic login. So what we actually want to do after this is we want to say this.router, which is views built-in router dot push, and then we want to go to /admin. So /admin doesn't exist yet, so we have to create it. Let's go to our folder structure, and I'll actually create two. I'll create admin, and then inside admin I'll do an index.view for the home admin, and then inside admin I'll also do a profile.view. So this profile will be /admin/profile. And the reason I'm doing that is just to show you how to block any routes within another route, which we'll do in our middleware. But for now, this is fine. So we'll just do a scaffold here and just say h1 profile. And then we actually don't need the whole scaffold. We can just do this. And then in admin, we can do a same thing. We'll do a scaffold, or we'll just do a template, and then we'll just say h1 admin route. Save that. If we test here, we can go to /admin, and it'll say we're on the admin route, and we go to /admin/profile, and we'll be on the profile route. So what we want to do now is sort of block the user from being able to visit these routes, because nobody's logged in. We don't know whose admin route this is and what they have to see. So we can't let them visit this unless they are logged in. So before we create the login, we'll first block these routes. And we can do that in our server middleware. So first we have to go to middleware and create a new file, and I'm going to call it authenticated.js, because this is a middleware, it's not a component. And then I'm going to close that down for a bit. What you have to do in here is you have to export a default function, and this function takes a few parameters. I'm going to destructure it. It gives you context, but the context has the store, it has the route, and it has redirect. It has more than this, but for now this is all we'll need. So what we want to do is we want to first check if there is a user signed in. So we'll have to create this user. So we'll say const user equals store.state.users.user. Doesn't exist yet. We have to create this store object, the store user, in our Nuxt store, which comes out of the box. And then for our what else do we need? We need our user, and we need our route. Yeah, so we have our route. So what we want to do is our blocked routes. So I'm going to create a thing called blocked route, a variable called blocked route, and I'm going to set that equal to a regular expression. So this regular expression will do a /admin and then escape / star, so anything after that, so it can even be blank, and then do that and do a G for global. So this means that anything that matches /admin/anything globally has to be blocked. But first we have to write the redirect if that happens. So what we want to do is we want to say if there's no user and the route that we are visiting, that route's path matches. So this is a built-in JavaScript regular expression function, or string function, which checks if it matches a specific string or regular expression, and we're using this blocked route regular expression. If it doesn't match, it will return null. So this will be a false statement, and this will never this will happen. So what we're saying is, if there's no user in the store and the route is one that we're blocking, we have to redirect, because they shouldn't be on this page, and we'll just go back home to make them log in again. So when we save that, nothing happens, because we have to go to our Nuxt config, and below plugins I'm gonna add another comment and just say router settings, and then add a property called router, and then in this router I'm gonna do something called middleware. And with middleware, you pass it an array of names of the middleware. So you don't have to give it the path. You can just actually give it the name. It knows to go look in the middleware folder. So we can say authenticated and then save that. And when this happens, your project will rebuild, because it's changing the config of the project, so it will rebuild. So now if we refresh, then cannot read property state of undefined, because we haven't created our store yet. So let's go to store, and the way we do that is by creating an index.js file, And all we have to do here is we have to say export a state. So const state equals a function that returns an object, and we'll just give this user null. So there's no user in the store when we start. So let's just save that. And now if we reload this, we have declared in our function store.state.users.user. So what I meant with that is that if you go to your store, you can create a new folder and name it users, and this will sort of act as a module or a namespace. And within users, you can create an index.js, and then I'm just going to move this store or the state out of this into the users module and save that. And then we should try to reload our page, and there you saw that quick redirect. So if I go up here and I try to add /admin, enter, it just redirects. And if I try to add /admin/profile, it redirects back to home because it knows that there's no user in our application. So the next step is to add this user that we want to our application. And we'll do that through Firebase. So first of all, we installed the Firebase dependency in when we created the project. It's or did we? No, we didn't. We need to install those dependencies. So we have to say npm install Firebase and cookie parser and JS cookie, and we have to install JWT decode as well. And I think why it didn't install here is because I wasn't in the right directory, so it'll install here. Previously when I installed it, I was in the drive directory. So before installing the dependencies, please go into your application. Now that we have our dependencies installed, we can close this down. I'm going to close down all those editors, and I'm going to shrink this and go to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this services. And in the services folder, I'm going to create a file called firebase.js, and in here I'm going to import Firebase from Firebase/app. And what we need to do is set a config, and this config you will find in your dashboard for your application. So I'm going to go to settings, project settings, scroll down, and you'll see this script here, and just use this object here. I'm just going to copy that and then paste it here. And then what we want to do is first, before we create our app, we want to see if we haven't created an app yet, because if there's an app already, we don't need to create it. So what we need to do is just say if not firebase.apps.length ? Then we want to firebase.initialize app with the config. Otherwise, we just want to do nothing. So what this is doing, it's first of all, it's checking if there's this is a ternary operator, so we don't need the if and the brackets and stuff. Let me close this down. So first, if there's no apps already defined, then we create an app, else we don't create an app. And then what we want to do is we want to export a constant called auth, and we want to set that equal to firebase.auth. So this is just creating the Firebase instance and allowing us to use this auth object. We can close that down now and open the login page. If we go to our home page, what we want to do instead of just console.logging, we want to actually set a login action from our store. So what we're going to do is we're going to say this.store.dispatch, which is an action. It's being dispatched, and we're going to call this users because we put it in the users namespace, and login. And then what we want to give it is the account. And then save that. But before that works, we need to go to our store and go to users and create a export of an action. So export const actions equals an object. This can just be a normal object, and we want to export the login method. So the login method takes two arguments. It takes a destructured context for the store, so we can say commit, and we can give it the payload, and I'm just going to call this account2. And then for this commit to work, we need a mutation. So mutations will change our state. So what we need to do is to export const mutations, and this is also an object, and what I want to do is set this to set user, and this takes a state and a account, and we need to make this a function. So what we want to do is just say state.user equals account, and this store is available throughout the whole application, so we can even change this from our Nuxt server or our another store. So this will help us tremendously in the upcoming steps. Okay, so we've covered creating the normal pages, blocking the admin route, and oh, but we first have to start our application again. Let's clear this, npm run dev, and let that start up. So we've done the blocking, and we've done the login page and everything, and the redirecting. What we want to do now is on login, we want to create this Firebase login from that checks sort of if the details are correct and logs the user in. And Firebase handles everything for us. You don't have to worry about setting your user from Google or whatever. But what we need to do is we need to create a cookie in our browser so that we can use that cookie on the server. So in order to be able to use a cookie, we need to import cookie from js-cookie, the dependency we installed, and then we also need to bring in that auth from Firebase, and we have to do this because we export it as a constant, and then say from @/services, which is just a shorthand for the project base directory, and Firebase, and we can leave off the .js. So what we want to do first is you can do some validation here if you want. Again, check if the account has the actual stuff or whatever, but we're just going to keep it simple for now, and we're going to say auth. We'll actually make this a async function, and we'll say await auth dot log in with email and password. It's a very long method name, but this is from Google, so you have to enter it that way. And we want to give it the account.email and the account.password. And next we want to, if we have this, because we were waiting this, that means that it will be done with the login. So there will be a new object available to us, and we can, and that's the user. So what we want to do is we want to get the credentials from the user that's been logged in. So a cool thing that Firebase provides us is a method called auth dot let's just say const token equals, and then this auth, which is Firebase's auth, dot current user dot get ID token. And what this is going to do is it's going to get a JSON web token form of the user's information. So this is very useful because we can create a cookie with that JSON web token and we can parse it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say await that, and then we want to do cookie dot set, and this just creates a cookie in our browser, and we want to call this access token, and then save the token in that. So basically what we're doing is we're logging in the user, and once that's done, we'll have this auth.currentUser available to us, and we can call this method to create a JSON web token. So let's do this. Log in the user, and what we want to do here is get JSON web token from Firebase, and then set the JWT to the token. I mean to the cookie. And then all of this we actually need to wrap within a try catch block, because this is how we'll handle our errors. I'm just gonna say for now that we need to, if there's an error, we can throw that error, and then all of this logic needs to go within try. So what this is doing is just if anything occurs during this process of logging in, getting a token, if there's an error, we're going to throw this to our page. So we'll have to do a dot catch on this one. But we're not done yet. What we need to do is set the user locally, and we do that through the commit method. And we want to commit the set user mutation, and we want to give it an object, and we can say that we could even do this and say const email UID equals auth dot current user as well. So this will destructure the email and UID properties out of the current user, and all we have to do now in here is to set the user. We can just do email and UID, because I don't want any of the other properties to be set. So this will set the user locally, and then we have a user in our store, so we can actually test this. Let's save, and the way we'll test this is to, we'll just do the login. We have to handle this error though. So on the index page, what I'm going to do is, instead of just dispatching, I'm going to say dot catch, which allows us to get that error if there's an error. And Firebase gives quite good error messages, and all we have to do to handle that is we can say we can create new properties, is error false, and error message is an empty string. And then up here below the input, we can do a alert div with alert danger clause, also from Bootstrap, and then just add a p with margin bottom of 0. And this we can say do an error message from the data property, and we only want to show this if there is an error. So we can do vif this error, and then what we do in this catch block is we can do this dot is error equals true, and then we'll set this is quite dirty, but for now we'll just set a timeout and just do this dot error, or this dot is error equals false. So it's going to make it true, show the error, and then after, let's say 3 seconds or 5 seconds, it's going to show take it away. But we also need to set the message. We can say this dot error message equals error from firebase.code. Save that, and then we can actually test this by entering the email that we have but entering the wrong password, just to see if this is actually working. So let's submit, and it says account is not defined. So why is that? Because we're using this dot account, and this reminds me of Daniel Schiffman from the coding train, where he goes, I always seem to forget that this dot. Anyway, so let's refresh, and now we have imported module is not a function, default is not a function. Something is breaking horrendously. So let's go back to the store, and we can say I took a bit of time to find the error, but this is why it's important to read docs. I just assume I know the stuff, but it's called sign in with email and password, not log in with email and password. So I also think we need to reset this. See if we have any other mistakes. Commit. Okay. Oh, I actually know what's wrong. We have to go to the services Firebase because we just imported the app module. It's not importing everything from Firebase, so we have to explicitly say Firebase/auth here so that it actually knows what this auth module is. And if we refresh, this should be good. Now let's try working with this error again. The error message should show. So let's go test that test and just enter the password 1, submit. It says auth wrong password. So you can, I mean, this isn't the best, so you could probably do something better than that, but Firebase supplies stuff out of the box, so we can even do test@t.com, and then it should say account doesn't exist. So that's some validation, it's fine. But now if we log in, we should expect that, okay, well, we do have a user in our system and we are logged in, so this should redirect us to the admin page. But the problem is we haven't handled this. So it logs us in, you won't see it, but it kind of takes us to, because we don't get an error message, it takes us away and then it sends us back because this .router.push admin goes there and it comes back immediately because we are going to the server without the without checking if there's a store. And the way we need to handle this is in our actual store. There's a special action. We can say export const actions equals object, and there's a special action called Nuxt server init, and this calls whenever the server initializes with a request or some page loads. This will be called on the server side. It takes two parameters. It takes the store and it takes the request object. So I'm just going to bring out commit and I'm going to bring out rec and save that for now. And on top of this page, we want to import some stuff. We want to do JWT decode from JWT decode, and we want to also import the cookie parser module that we got. So the first step is to see if there is actually a cookie on the request object. So we can just say if there's no request.headers.cookie, we can just return, and this won't do anything. It'll just redirect us back here. And then another thing we want to do is make sure that we aren't we actually want to do this first, is make sure that this isn't a static site. So we can do process.server and process.static. We also want to return, and then we can start playing with this cookie. So we know that if we got to this point that there is a cookie on the head. So what we want to do is we're gonna say const access token cookie, or we can just say parsed equals cookie parser dot parse, and we want to parse that rec.headers.cookie. And then let me just close this down on the side. And then the next step is we want to create we want to get the access token cookie. So the access token cookie would be the parsed dot access underscore token. And the reason it's access token like that is because in users we save the cookie as access token. So just to make sure, we can say if there is an access token cookie, we want to say, or what we can do is we can just say if there's no, because we have to make sure that this exists. If there's no access token cookie, then we just want to return again and leave this function. But then we can say that const decoded equals access token, or JWT decode, because now we actually have this cookie in its form that we saved it. So that's a JSON web token. So we need to decode that with JWT decode, and then what we can do now is we can say if decoded is a thing, we can do a first of all, we can do a commit to the store of set user, and we want to set that to the decoded, or we can do UID is now decoded dot user underscore ID. I don't know why they didn't call it UID on this object as well, but if it's coming from a JSON web token, it's dot user ID. And then email, we can just do decoded dot email and save that. So now every time a request is made, we're checking for a cookie. If there's a cookie, we set it in the store, and this is being sent from the server. So by the time it gets to our client, the store is already populated, and this is right when the server is initialized. So before anything else happens, the server is initialized. We set that cookie from the we set the user from the cookie. So now this user will be available in our store, and our middleware is now checking if there's no user and route, but now if it matches the route and there's a user, it's fine, we don't have to redirect. So this should be enough for us to actually use our application. So let's do that. Let's first try a wrong password again. Wrong password, okay, so that's still working. And then we can do password 123, submit. If there's errors, we have to check for them. Let's first do a refresh. Unknown action. So this log is coming from the server. Unknown mutation type set user, and that's because we gave it a namespace of users. So we need to do users slash. So let's try that again. We can do test at test.com, and then we can do password 123, submit. Mutation type global set. You know, that took me like 5 minutes to realize, but I didn't even see that I tried to set to users slash set user from the actual user file. So that's not necessary. I should change it in the actual Nuxt server, and that should be users slash set user. So now finally, let's try it one last time. Log in. We don't have an error, but we don't have a redirect either. So let's refresh the page maybe. Try again. Test at test.com. Password 123 and submit. And there we go. We are on our admin route. If we go to profile, we can visit our profile. So what we can do to test this is we can go to pages, not index, we can go to pages admin index. And then in here, let's just add an A tag without an href and just say add click equals logout, and then just say logout here, and then below, what's this complaining about? Oh, we need one element. I hope view 3 and Nuxt allows us to use more than one root element. But okay, so in the script, we want to set that method logout, and I'm just going to do it straight from here. I'm not going to do any stores things, so I'm just going to import that auth module from Firebase, and that's @/services/Firebase. And then in the logout, what I'm going to do is say auth.sign out. We can do async. So first, and we actually need to import our cookie module as well. Import cookie from JS cookie. And then the first thing we need to do is to sign out the user. So we can do await auth.signout, and then we can do await cookie.remove the access token, because we don't need that anymore. And it's important that we don't send that in the request after the user has logged out. And then we can do a hard refresh location.href equals that, so that we do a complete new request from the server. Save, and then reload this. Oh, it's on our admin page. Go to admin, and if we do logout, it goes back to here. And if we try to go to admin, it redirects us. So only once we sign in, we'll be able to actually Oops, I entered my own password wrong. And again, let's try not doing that. It's loading. You could in this section where, so let's just reload this quickly. In this section where the app is doing the request to Firebase, you can do a submit, and as you submit, you could do a loader instead. So now we have our admin. We can go back home, and we can also do admin/profile. And another thing you could do is, if it's quite a bit redundant to make the home page be the login page once the user's already auth. So in our middleware, server middleware, we can do, or our router middleware, we can do a home route and equals just a normal slash. So we don't do a regex on this, just a slash. And then we can say if there is a user and route.path equals home route, then we want to redirect to, let's say, admin, because why log in a user that's already logged in? So you could play with these routes. But so if I try to go to home now, enter, it should redirect me to admin immediately. Yeah, and that works. So if we log out, it'll take us to home. If we try to go to admin, we're safe. So that'll be it for today. Sorry if the video was a bit boring or rushed or not informative. Let me know what I can improve. I'm a bit sick, so I just felt like I had to make a video. It's been quite a while. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you liked it, and I'll see you next time.